answering that.
It's very,
So-
very, very philosophical. My name is Alex. I lead developer relations at Aleo. I'm an engineer by trade, so you're kind of find something you're passionate about and can kind of see a long-term future for it and establish kind of those milestones.
Aleo in a simple way.
Yeah, private.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Builder Activation podcast. This is Hirin from AKINDO. Today I'm very happy to have Alex with us. Alex is the DevRel Lead at Aleo and works closely with developers and builders in the ecosystem. So Alex, thanks a lot for joining today. So maybe before we start, could you briefly introduce yourself and your role at Aleo?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Alex. I lead developer relations at Aleo. I'm an engineer by trade, so um, I'm very technical and I kind of understand what it means to be a builder. I started out as a builder on Aleo, and then eventually, transitioned to a full-time hire. So very, very acutely aware of builder issues and wanting to help out the builder community.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So just a quick catch-up question before we go deeper. Where are you based these days?
I'm based at Washington, D.C., so East Coast of the United States.
Oh, okay, cool. So, and is most of the Aleo team remote or spread across different regions?
Most of us are remote, spread out. We have our main kind of hub and where the company was founded out of was San Francisco. Very classic. So a good portion of the team is there, but we have people all over.
Okay, so yeah, my team is based in Tokyo, Japan, and actually I'm from South Korea, so my base is in Seoul. So normally, like crypto teams are usually very global, so I'm always curious how teams actually work day to day. So I'm also curious about your daily routine. Like, what does a typical day look like for you as a DevRel lead?
Honestly, it is all over the map. Because we're a startup and B we keep our team pretty lean. I kind of have to do a lot of different things and jump around in a lot of different areas. So again, classic DevRel, doing things like this, going on podcasts, working on developer docs, the AKINDO Buildathon, just kind of maintaining that. And then sometimes we have engineering projects like build out a new faucet, for example, because this faucet isn't working, or help this partner integrate with XYZ. So there's just a lot of different things you got to juggle, and it's honestly pretty awesome. I love it, honestly. But yeah, a lot of different tasks to manage.
Mm-hmm. So are you mostly talking with builders or helping developers who are building on Aleo?
A little bit of both. So, when we run, local developer meetups and hackathons and obviously the buildathon, it's talking a lot with just builders and like, it kind of more, small scale, bootstrapping projects. Whereas there's also kind of a separate category of established teams or companies who are trying to come in and integrate with the network. And that's kind of a related but separate conversation. So you kind of have to, juggle between the two.
hmm Okay, that's interesting. I always like hearing how people first got into crypto, and because everyone has a different story. So some people come from engineering, some from finance, and some just discover crypto randomly. So I'm curious about your story. So how did you first get interested in crypto?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm an engineer by trade. I am not well versed in finance or marketing or anything like that. I've kind of had to learn on the fly with crypto, but my roots come from when I was in university. My final year of my undergraduate, took a cryptocurrency class. It was kind of the first one offered at the time. No one really knew, like, it was before anyone was super familiar with a lot of the tech, and I didn't know anything about the tech, and they kind of just covered a lot of the cryptography and then went into Bitcoin and Ethereum, the UTXO versus the smart contract model, all of that, and then got to build out a lot of like just classic use cases like build a token, build a DEX, build a DAO for voting. So just I always thought it was really interesting. Like, it was a very interesting application of computer science, and then just tried to keep digging into it, and then realized kind of the next step up for crypto was these things called zero knowledge proofs. And I said, okay, who's working on that? Ended up finding Aleo, started building on there, and then built for a few years, honestly. Just tried to help out, contribute to the ecosystem, answer developer questions, contribute to like governance proposals, things like that. And then eventually now I work here. So
Okay.
pretty awesome journey.
Okay, cool. So, I think like crypto is very international. Have you ever thought about like working abroad or like, work remotely from another country?
Sure, I've thought about it definitely. Hey, and I'm been based in America my whole life, so it does make it a little bit easier because of the language and all that. I don't speak any other languages, but yeah, I've the nice thing is because again doing DevRel, it's not just a pure engineering role. There's also these kind of forward facing activities, podcasts, conferences, going to events, working at a booth. I've gotten to travel a decent amount to other countries for this, which is a nice kind of middle ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, have you ever been to Japan or Korea or any other Asian countries?
Not for work, not me specifically for work. I know we've been there several times as a company. I've been there personally. I'm Korean, by or at least half Korean. So I've obviously been there to visit my family.
Oh, really? You're half
Ye-
Korean?
Yeah, yeah. My last name is Kim.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I'm Korean too. I'm very
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah. No, yeah. It's not. I'm only half Korean, so it's not obvious just from looking at me.
Okay, so okay, now maybe we can talk a bit more about Aleo itself. So some listeners might already know Aleo, but some people may be hearing about it for the first time. So maybe we can start simple, like if someone is completely new to crypto, how would you explain like Aleo in a simple way?
Yeah, so effectively, the biggest value proposition that we're providing is privacy. So traditional blockchains, almost every other one like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, you name it, all transactions are public. So they're literally a public ledger. So if anytime you do any kind of transfer or smart contract interaction, you can go on this thing called a block explorer, yeah, and then just see everything that's going on. And if you happen to get somebody's address, you can go look it up and see all of their financial dealings and holdings and anything they own effectively. And that's and if you want to translate that to the real world, that'd be like if someone gave you their bank account routing number, and then you could go look it up on the internet and see how much money they had in there. And that totally breaks the idea of financial privacy and user privacy. And I think that's from what we've heard, that's kind of been a big sticking point for a lot of power users, but also institutions, and why they have not fully adopted crypto rails, because they don't have privacy. So long way around it, that's what we offer. We're an L1 blockchain that offers fully private um, transactions, and more importantly, fully private smart contract interactions. So privacy is programmable, so you can either keep things fully private or disclose them at any point in which you're programming. Kind of, it's up to the developer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, one thing people always mention when talking about Aleo is privacy. So most blockchains today are very transparent, as you said. So anyone can see transactions and like wallet activity. So in some cases, like the transparency is useful. So but in real life, it can also create problems. So from your perspective, like why does privacy matter, like in crypto?
Yeah, so I mean, you can think of like from a user perspective, but also from an institution perspective. If I'm a user, and let's say we live in this new world where crypto is integrated everywhere. If I go to Starbucks and pay $5 for coffee, and say I pay it in stable coins. If you pay in any other stable coins on any other chain right now, um, you know, anyone who knows the address of the coffee shop will inherently be able to see everything coming in there, and by proxy will know that any address that paid to that is likely someone who lives near there in real life. So like you're leaking your location data. In addition, you'll leak your address to all the middle parties, like between you and the payment. So the payment provider, or sorry, the payment processor, the barista, the coffee shop owners. That all that information gets leaked. So effectively, there's no like the way crypto is now. It's pseudonymized effectively because like you have this long address of letters and numbers, and everyone thinks that kind of hides who you are. But it's very easy to de-anonymize that effectively and learn all kinds of different information about a user, which again breaks the privacy model. If you think about it from an institution level, if they adopt these crypto payment rails and they're trying to allocate their capital to a different vendor or different sector and kind of have this proprietary strategy for the next quarter or the next year, they don't want their competitors to be able to see that and respond accordingly or undercut them, because that effectively defeats their strategy. So if they're trying to do any of those kind of capital allocations via stablecoins or any other crypto for that matter, it's completely unviable. So that's why you need some level of privacy, but also programmable privacy, so you can disclose only the amount of information that you want to, and then also if you want to program in some kind of compliance mechanisms, so you're not in violation of any local laws.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Like you mentioned, like I heard that some people buy coffee at Starbucks with stable coins. Like, have you ever tried that?
I have not, because it's a little difficult in the United States that we're still figuring that part out. I will say, actually, I did in Argentina for DevConnect, because
Oh.
I know in Latin America they are much farther along in their kind of crypto-based payment rails, uh, somewhat out of necessity, but it's a different conversation. But I did actually get to, I think it was someone I was traveling with happened to have, I think it's called Peanut, like a Peanut card, or something
Mhm.
like that. But they were able to pay at the Starbucks at the airport with their crypto card, essentially. So yeah, it definitely is. There is a world in which this becomes a true global adoption, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like we had a podcast recording with Polygon DevRel and also line from Crecimiento, like from Argentina. They also said like they use like stable coin for buying steak or like coffee there. So it's very interesting. In Korea, it's not very common actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's mainly in kind of a more developing countries where, or not even developing countries, just countries where the currency isn't as stable,
Mm-hmm.
and where they have, kind of wild fluctuations in the valuation of the currency, think Latin America or Africa. That's where, they've had the most, um, kind of adoption of these crypto-based payment rails from, large scale to even day-to-day transactions, because it's out of necessity and because it gives them fairly easy access to US dollars.
Yeah, so if in the US you can use stablecoin everywhere, like will you use stablecoin?
Yeah, so I mean that's the tricky part about it. Like I could definitely see a world in which I use it. If you think about it, like I for a lot of things already use Apple Pay. So it's just like I just double tap the button on my phone and just scan and pay. And that could be a stable coin for all I know, and it wouldn't matter to me. The only, part that really matters is the UX part.
Mm-hmm.
So effectively, if that kind of gets into a big problem with crypto and privacy in general, is the biggest thing that's been neglected is the UX. Because if you want, like regular people to adopt these crypto-based payment rails, it should feel as seamless as me paying with Apple Pay. Like at the end, it's almost as if you need to abstract away um, crypto to the point where nobody even knows you're paying with crypto. But they it should feel as seamless as paying with any other form currently. And that's kind of the unsolved problem, where I guess a lot of different approaches have been taken to that. And it gets even more complex when you start talking about privacy, and if you have private and public state, like how do you want to manage that? Do you not want to manage it at all? Do you want to keep it fully private and just completely abstract it away for the user and just be like, crypto private, private by default? Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for sharing. So now maybe we can talk a bit about what's been happening recently in the Aleo ecosystem. So recently, Aleo introduced something called Shield. So I think many people are curious about this. So for listeners who may not know yet, what exactly is Shield?
Yeah, so and this perfectly plays into that UX conversation we were just having. Build is a brand new wallet for the Aleo ecosystem that was kind of developed in-house by our labs company Provable. It's kind of been in response to our wallet. A wallet is such a critical piece of infrastructure for any crypto ecosystem, and having a premier wallet experience, is by proxy so critical to the success of a crypto project. And Ethereum, obviously has something like has many different wallets, but MetaMask is the biggest one, and that has kind of become the premier wallet for Ethereum. And then I think Solana has Phantom Wallet. And for us, we just weren't satisfied with the current state of our wallets, especially because it's so difficult because of our kind of dual public private state model. So you can have, just to clarify for people not familiar with us, you can have public funds, which function exactly like Ethereum. It's kind of like an account based model. One address has this certain number tied to it. And it's like, this is your balance of your public balance of your account, and you can own tokens and so on and so forth. Every address also has a private balance, which is a totally different model. It's much more akin to the UTXO model of Bitcoin. So you have individual pockets of private state, or you can almost think of them like bills or denominations, and collect it, and they're all encrypted on chain. So it's all totally private. And to figure out your total private balance, you need to find all of these encrypted pockets that belong to you on chain and add them all up. And then that's your total private balance. And as these things get consumed and produced, um, keeping track and managing that kind of private state is a real engineering challenge. So a lot of the pre-existing wallets, which were more community, grassroots grown and grant funded, just at some point didn't have the engineering backing and the technical capabilities to do this effectively. So we decided, if a wallet is so necessary for the success of our project, why don't we just build it in house? So there's a lot of huge technical advancements we had to do to get this to a premier wallet experience. All the private state tracking is handled in the back end of the wallet, so users don't need to have track all their private, we call them records, so these encrypted pockets, track all their private records, like merge and split them. All of that is handled in the background. We have this thing called delegated proving. So for those not familiar with CK proving, the biggest UX complaint was it takes a long time to generate these proofs. I guess in terms of crypto. So if you're used to a regular transaction where you just sign it and send it, and it's like 10-20 seconds, generating the proof locally could take a couple of minutes, or if you're doing some huge computation, it could take a really long time. And one of the biggest things we've added into the wallet is this idea of something called delegated proving. So we have kind of this dedicated cluster of GPU based provers that will effectively, when you want to execute a private transaction, you formulate it and then you just send it off to this remote prover. So it will generate the ZK proof and then send it back to you so you can broadcast it on chain. And that's because it's a specialized hardware and pretty beefy cluster. It takes a couple seconds for a transfer, which is a huge leap in UX improvement. So there's a lot of really great things going on with that Shield wallet, and we're hoping that will kind of be the next step in unlocking private mass adoption of crypto, mass adoption of private crypto.
Hmm. So yeah, that was a really clear explanation. But simply speaking, like how might people start using crypto differently from Shield?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things we've included in the wallet. First off, you have your usual send and receive buttons. That's like very traditional. Every wallet has that. Our wallet also has an additional thing called shielding, so you can convert between public and private funds as you see
Oh.
fit. That's step one. Step two is we've integrated our first private stablecoins directly into the wallet, so you don't need to do any extra configuration. Um, you know, for those of us not aware, we partnered with Circle and Paxos to launch the world's first private stablecoins. So, um, effectively, they're just like, USDC on any other chain, but you can convert them from public to private and do private stablecoin transactions. Those are integrated natively into the wallet right out the box. And the last kind of, huge unlock is cross-chain swaps. So if you look in the wallet now, we've actually integrated with Near Intents and Houdini Swap. So you can do private cross-chain swaps directly from in the wallet. So you can bridge into Aleo from any of the chains that they support and then bridge out if need be. So effectively, you can you know have some kind of privacy preserving features of any token that they support. I know Near recently announced that they're launching a product called Confidential Intents, and basically through this kind of encrypted hardware that they're providing called a TEE, any kind of Near intents you do will be kept fairly private. So that plays in nicely with what Aleo's value proposition is. And as soon as that comes online for them, we'll be integrating these confidential intents into the Shield wallet. So you'll be able to do not just private transactions on Aleo, but through confidential intents, private cross-chain um, swaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope people who care about privacy will start using it more. So that makes sense, right? So now maybe we can move on to the AKINDO and Aleo Buildathon and talk about what builders are creating. So since we are running this buildathon together, I'm curious from your perspective as a DevRel lead. So how has it been so far?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been an interesting challenge, both I guess for builders, because obviously we have a lot of kind of unfamiliar restrictions, but also from us as a team because we've never done a hackathon or I guess a buildathon quite like this. Um, and it's interesting because normally with a hackathon you kind of just judge a project first time seeing it. It is what it is, but taking into account this kind of long term iterative process and building and a long term plan. Like they may not have this exact feature or product ready now, but they're kind of elaborating on the plan to do it in the future waves. That changes obviously the judging criteria a lot and how much you have to wait on different projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, have you seen any projects that made you think this is really interesting idea so far?
Yeah, there's been a lot of submissions for private prediction markets because prediction markets are the hot thing these days. And things like Polymarket are based on Polygon, and so like it's a decentralized and crypto based prediction market. And I think there is a decent amount of interest in someone building out a private prediction market so users' positions don't get leaked.
Okay. So, what kind of applications do you think fit especially well with Aleo?
Yeah, so that if you go to our Buildathon page, we tried to be a little bit more deliberate in um, specifying what kind of projects we're looking for and what kind of builders we're looking for because in the past, and this applies to crypto in general, but especially us in the past, a lot of it's just been let's build this infrastructure layer and have developers come in and we'll just throw out money, essentially, small grants and just build MVP, build, hobby project, build this like small project, and then we'll give you some money. And then inevitably they just end up leaving or trying a different project, just trying to farm the grant money. And that's good for, I guess, some fledgling ecosystems, especially if like early on when we were building a programming language from scratch, you just want anyone to come in and test it and find bugs and try it out. Now I think we're at the point where we're less project oriented and more product oriented. So we want to have
Mhm.
real end user facing products that are high quality, have real developer teams backing them, and can eventually scale to, kind of major products on the network. And so, yeah, we've been trying to be very stingy with giving out these kind of grants towards projects that we think can eventually, become like turn into that essentially. In terms of the category, actually, we're looking at, we want to kind of emphasize product market fit. So, if you take an example like a decentralized social application like Farcaster was doing or Base was doing, I don't know if you've seen the news recently. Base tried to make their wallet like a social app for everything and it quickly pivoted away. The Farcaster founders kind of departed from the company and transferred it to the community. So I think there's kind of clear indications that it's a cool idea, but there's no real product there. There's no fit for, end users are willing to pay money for this product. And then so like you ask yourself, okay, what areas do have product market fit? I think prediction markets do, as we mentioned. I think
Mhm.
DeFi does. So lending, um, you know, swaps and any kind of thing like that. And then for us, the biggest focus has been payments. So, um, if privacy unlocks all these different kind of financial use cases for users and institutions, they're going to need these payment rails, payment protocols, payment applications to be able to interact with Aleo without needing to understand ZK proofs and the public-private state. This should all be handled for them. Part of that has been building Shield Wallet, but also now we need actual applications for them to um, use and to integrate with Shield Wallet. So I think those are kind of the three biggest categories we've seen. You know, payments, DeFi, and prediction markets. That's not to say that we are totally against the idea of like voting or decentralized gaming or decentralized social applications or AI. It's just that I don't think our network isn't quite there yet in terms of technical capabilities for things like AI. But two, you'll need to provide a very good argument, a very strong argument why, if you're going to go this route, why it's not going to end up like every other, project in that field, or why you think it can turn scale into a successful product.
Mhm. Thank you so much. So, what kind of builders usually create those kind of projects? I mean, like, from your perspective, like, what kind of projects do you think can really become real products?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones actually we've seen, I guess the one we're in wave 3 right now, but the one of the top winners from both wave 1 and 2 was actually a payment platform. So like essentially facilitating private payments, almost like sorry, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's effectively just having kind of an accounting system and a nice front end for doing these kind of payments, but not just like individual payments, but also batch payments. So if you're an employer and you want to pay a bunch of employees at one time, you don't want to have to go through and sit and do individual transactions for all of them. You want to be able to just um, privately batch pay a bunch of employees, and that's an interesting engineering challenge. I'll put it that way. So things like that.
Hmm. So, okay. So then, you've probably met many builders through your work, I guess. So, from your experience, like, what kind of people do you think end up succeeding in the end?
I mean, there's no real one type of person or background or anything. That's kind of the nice thing about being kind of an open, decentralized protocol is that anybody can build on it. So it's kind of been a wide spectrum of people who end up being successful. What I'll say is you have to kind of have the right mind for both core engineering. So again, that's where the builder and the project part comes in, but also the right mind for product management or product design. So how can this, um, if I'm an end user coming to use this, what am I going to think when I view my front end? What am I going to think about the user experience? So kind of having both of those perspectives in your mind is how builders will be able to be most successful, in my opinion.
Hmm. Okay, thank you so much. So, earlier you mentioned like you're looking for some like payment products. So when you look at something like that, like how complete does it need to be? I mean, like, does it need to be fully built with things like security already in place, or can you still see strong potential even it's just an early prototype?
Yes, that's like eventually the goal is to eventually have the products with all these concerns in, but like it doesn't need to
Mm-hmm.
be one shot from the beginning. Yeah, and it's so long as you have a clear plan, we can definitely and you kind of communicate what your vision is, and then yeah, it's you can kind of see this long term idea. What I will say is one thing we have noticed is that where we want to have encourage people to just present an MVP, a minimum viable product, for the competition. But I think there is a differing idea on what that term actually means. And for us, a minimum viable product is um, you need to have both a backend that has been spun up, it's like an actual, real, you know, product like built on Aleo, but also if any kind of backend or service or server you've spun up, but also a fully functional front end. So we can act like as an end user, I can go in and use your product, even if it's not optimal yet. There should at least be some way where I can come in and interact with what you've done and test out this thing you're trying to build. That obviously includes, if I have a wallet, I need to make payments. I need to be able to connect my wallet. I need to be able to interact with your smart contract on chain. And any kind of user flow should work end to end from the beginning, even if it isn't the exactly correct user flow, or maybe there's some um, improvements that could be made, but it should at least function to some degree. And I think a lot of builders neglect that and just they have the skeletons and bare bones of of something, but it doesn't work end to end yet, and that doesn't meet the minimum part of minimum viable product.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So, you mentioned earlier that you're interested in like DeFi or like payment products,
Mhm.
but are there any other trends you're seeing recently? Like, for example, things like AI or other types of applications?
Yeah, I mean, on the larger crypto and tech world, obviously AI is, you know, the biggest trend right now. You know, Claude GPT. I use Claude Code for everything basically right now. It's awesome. I don't know if Aleo was quite there yet to support AI based applications because again our because of our privacy model, our language is very um, restrictive with regards to AI applications because of the limits on computation you can do, like within reasonable time. Um, and so I think it's long term we'll see something like private AI computation or private inference. I don't quite think we're there yet.
Okay, so but recently we are also seeing a big change because of AI tools, right? So sometimes even one person can build a full prototype now, like me. Are you seeing like builders use AI tools more when they build products these days? And do you think it's helpful, or do you think you're more like worrying about it?
I've actually changed my mind a lot recently. I was originally kind of a doomer and saying this will be the end of us all. But I think now that I've started to use Claude a lot more and kind of use it in a lot of different um, places, I'm much more optimistic on this is just a really helpful tool. And if you know how to use it right, it can be a really helpful tool. It's kind of a double-edged sword though, because unfortunately, again, as we've experienced with the buildathon, if you're just kind of not super familiar with what you're building, you just tell Claude or the AI to build it, you'll end up producing something that, to the untrained eye looks complete, but then anyone who hasn't experience will dig into the first layer and be like, this is complete AI slop. This is like, this doesn't function. It's making up. Like we've had a couple projects in the buildathon who just have submitted their project, and you look at the Leo code. Leo is our programming language. It's not even Leo code. It doesn't compile. So I'm not sure what, if they didn't even check their work, or just kind of said, build me this application on Aleo and left it. Which that obviously isn't, like, you need to have some level of good engineering principles and kind of guide the AI along. And then that's how you will, accelerate this development process. I don't think just trying to one shot it will be any kind of, won't end up in any kind of success.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you just mentioned just now, but when builders are building products, like how do you think they can use AI effectively?
Yeah, so there's a lot of great skills and tools out there that kind of help the AI models adopt more software engineering first principles, and kind of do it more iteratively rather than trying to one shot it. But I think, yeah, starting out with an idea in your head, even if it's kind of a loose collection of ideas, start out with the design document. Don't write any code at first. Just start talking with Claude, GPT, whichever AI model you prefer, and just start presenting your ideas to it and have it help you work through the exact design of what you're trying to build, so you have a clear idea of what is the ideal outcome I want, and does it make sense to the AI model. Once you have a kind of a clear plan written out, transition to making a design document. Says, okay, what is specific implementation pieces I need to have in order to make this plan technically viable? Hash that and iterate on that. And then at that point, once you have a clear kind of document built out, then you can go to Claude and be like, okay, let's start building this. And then obviously monitor it as it's building, because it will ask you for different pieces of feedback, or permission to install, or download certain things, and kind of being more active in that process rather than just Claude build me this and then leaving to go do something else. That's generally where I've had the most success with AI models.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your opinion. So maybe let's go back to the build-up-on for a moment. So we received quite a lot of submissions. So when judging them, maybe it took a lot of times, I guess. So what do you think is the most important thing you look for?
It's really like a collection of different things. So it's kind of part of the reason why we added those extra requirements after the first wave, just to um kind of help us narrow it down, but also to incentivize the clear kind of core value propositions that we're providing. So again, like I mentioned, you need to have a kind of a fully functioning pipeline. So your front end needs to work, it needs to connect to your on-chain program, and then any backend service all needs to be able to link up and execute correctly. Um, and the biggest thing for us is, like, if you're doing any kind of payment application, um, we really want you to actually take advantage of our, either native token or our stablecoin programs, which we just launched. Because we've noticed a lot of projects just kind of mock up a um, fake token effectively, that they can use for their project, which kind of defeats the purpose of building, um, particularly if you're doing it on testnet, which are the tokens don't have any value. And then, in addition to kind of taking advantage of that core tooling, also, we just launched Shield Wallet. It's the premier wallet experience on Aleo. You should probably integrate that in your front end if you want to have a great user experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of things like that.
Okay, thank you so much. So, then for developers like who are thinking about building on Aleo, like what advice would you give them? Like, how should they get started?
Yeah, we're working on kind of a major overhaul of the documentation. So it will be a lot more, up to date and concise, but B, also a lot more LLM friendly, so that their AI models will be able to kind of read and process through that information and get the correct information to the end user. What I will say is, because Aleo's tech stack and architecture is so different to traditional computing, but also to any existing blockchain, we have our own language, our own kind of private public state model, our own stack, etc. I think a good place to start is um, just understand the technology very deeply, understand Aleo very deeply. And again, this is where things like AI can help because it can help summarize and distill, and you can ask it questions and then kind of get a back and forth. But have a solid understanding of, at least from a builder perspective, what Aleo offers and what you can do with it. And then proceed to, again, ideate, plan, and then, build.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much. So, I think like when I talk with you, I can really feel that you have a lot of passion for Aleo. So, what is like working as a DevRel?
It's great. I mean, I've when I joined Aleo and didn't look back. So I've had having to wear so many different kind of hats, both technical and marketing, and going to events, working at a booth, and then immediately having to turn around and start building some service. It it always keeps you on your toes. So you're always having to understand and learn new things, and always having to kind of critically think, uh, which I really appreciate because I'm never bored.
Okay, that's very interesting. So then what is your favorite part of your job? Like meeting builders in person at conference or events or something like that?
I definitely say, you know, I enjoy helping the builders out through things like this and through our different support vectors. We have a developer office hours every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. But yes, just getting to engage with them at different venues like that and kind of hear what they're building, hear their same passion for the um, same privacy tech and crypto. Yeah, those conversations are awesome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Then like on the other side, what is the most challenging part of working as a DevRel?
Honestly, for me, it's that exact same thing because, again, being an engineer, I tend to be a fairly introverted person, and I'm very comfortable just, let me just give me some quiet time and let me code, let me build. So kind of having to have these more forward facing activities, podcasts, engaging with developers at conferences, and then talking with a lot of people. Um, it's definitely not a skill I've been super familiar with, but I've had to learn as I've been doing this.
I think like you're very good at like a podcasting and like X Phase like maybe experience together.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
yeah, it's not my natural habitat. It's something I've had to acutely learn and teach myself.
That's awesome. So actually in a previous interview with Zero G, I think like someone mentioned that DevRel is almost like a 24-hour job. Do you feel the same way sometimes?
Yeah, it really is because developers are all over the world. So, like for example, if there's a builder in India and it says, "Oh, can you send me some testnet tokens? I have this question." For me, it might be 3 o'clock in the morning, and I might be asleep, but if I happen to be up and on my phone and I see that, I feel it would be very easy to ignore it, but I feel bad, so bad that I'll get up and be like, it's very easy for me to just go into my Shield wallet and then send some testnet credits out to this address. So yeah, it's a never ending battle. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. Okay. So, what are your personal goals at Aleo for 2026?
Yeah, so I think I've noticed a very distinct shift in our team, like I said, at Aleo over the past year. And I think moving forward, we're in a really good position to uh, kind of capitalize on the privacy narrative and the stablecoin narrative. We've run a lot of new people on our team and kind of shifted some things around. So we're much more focused, I would say, much more all aligned in the same direction. And so the nice thing is, I think at Aleo we have our engineering labs company called Provable, but also um, I work at the Aleo Network Foundation, which again is the nonprofit, which does a lot of the BD and outreach. So I think moving forward for the next year, we're going to start to do some more engineering efforts within the foundation itself, including a lot more forward-facing products. So I'll get to do a little bit more traditional engineering, which I'm very very much looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So, do you sometimes do like activities like together with the team? Like, what is the team culture like at Aleo?
Yeah, so it's a little difficult at the foundation because we're totally remote, so we have no kind of home base office. I would say I guess maybe New York if you wanted to pick a location, but yeah, the I know we work very obviously very closely with Provable, who has a mostly based in San Francisco. They have a physical office there, so I've been able to essentially anytime I go out there, just go hang out in the office, work out of there. They we kind of do pretty routine offsites and leadership summits in various places, either New York or SF. So yeah, just getting to see everyone, and then obviously like our biggest activation recently was Denver, so I got to see a lot of the team in person there, and some people who I only met over the internet. So getting to meet them in person was pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Pretty cool. Okay, so what kind of future is the Aleo team dreaming about? Maybe, I don't know, in 5 years or in 10 years?
Yeah. So, and I'll give you a quote from our founder Howard. In 5 years, so if you look at stablecoin transactions today, less than 0.01% are private slash encrypted. It's all public. In 5 years, we imagine that 99% of stablecoin transactions will be private. That kind of ratio it will be completely flipped on its head. And I don't think there's very few people actually thinking about private crypto payments and private stablecoins right now. So I think Aleo is in a really unique position to capture that narrative and capture that use case in that audience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Like one more question, like what is your like personal dream as a DevRel engineer?
Um, it's I I would like to see, obviously out of this buildathon, I would like to see uh kind of at least one fully fledged like product to go viral and become the next. Like if we have a prediction market that makes it to the end of the buildathon, and I want it to become the private poly market. I want it to become um the next Aave, the next Uniswap, the next again poly market. So to as a DevRel person, that would be the dream you know scenario.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Maybe this might be a bit of a personal question, like, but what are your hobbies or like personal goals outside of being a DevRel engineer?
I mean, a a lot of my, I guess it's pretty funny. A lot of my both professional and personal interest is obviously in Aleo, because before I worked here, I was doing all like building on Aleo in my free time. So now
Oh,
that I work
wow.
here, I build on Aleo for work and in my free time.
Wow.
So yeah, when basically in the on hours, I'm helping builders and then building up services and then integrating with partners. But then in the off hours, I just you know I turn into a builder myself, where I start playing around and see like different use cases that um, Halo could be applied to, or different things we could integrate with, just because I find it technically interesting and fun to do.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very interesting. So, do you have any travel plans or any conferences that you'd like to attend in the future this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we finalized any plans yet, but there's just, I mean, I've only been to a couple as an employee, so I think it'd be really cool to see a lot of the major crypto conferences on the crypto circuits. I think ECC is the next big one. Japan, Korea, obviously. But if I would, get to travel there in a professional capacity, I think that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. Akinda team is also attending like ECC and like Teams Tokyo, Japan. So,
Mm-hmm.
are you also coming to Teams Tokyo?
I don't know if any plans have been finalized yet. I think we're still trying to figure out the whole goals for the new year. But we'll see. We can definitely add to the things we're considering.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. So, this is something we always ask on our podcasts. What does success mean to you?
In a crypto sense, or for Aleo, or for personally, I guess.
Just personally.
Um, I think it's, finding belief in what you're doing. So it's, even if it's may not be profitable or, um, I guess approved or whatever, however you want to define it. So long as you're kind of find something you're passionate about and can kind of see a long-term future for it and establish kind of those milestones and work towards and achieve those, I think for me that's how you build a pathway to success.
Hmm. Yeah, I know these are like difficult questions, so thank you for
Yeah.
answering them.
It's very,
So
very, very philosophical.
yeah, so I know. Yeah, so maybe last question, like, what do you think is the main difference between a build-a-thon and a hackathon?
I think with the build-a-thon, it actually incentivizes people to think about the long term. So again, think about the scaling to a forward-facing product, because if you're staying with this, for a short-term hackathon, again, you build this project, takes 2-3 days of your life, and then doesn't really cost you anything long term. But if you're sticking with this project for weeks and months, at some point you invested so much time into this idea and into building this product that it doesn't, you have to consider like, the sunk cost fallacy. Like, why should I if I'm going to abandon this, I will lose all this work. So why not take it and see how far it can go and see if I can really turn it into a product and in a business.
Hmm. Okay, so is there anything you'd like to say to builders in the audience on behalf of Aleo?
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate everyone who's come through the buildathon already. We've gotten a ton of submissions, kind of clearly validating our um, thesis that privacy is a huge narrative right now. We encourage everyone to please keep building. I know we've had um, a lot of new requirements added and a lot of back and forth, but we're kind of growing through this as well, just alongside you guys, trying to figure out what the best strategy and approach is so that we can, I guess, all parties can be mutually successful. So builders can, build great products and scale it and eventually become something. And then obviously that benefits us as well. And we want to make sure that the builders are best equipped to be able to do that.
Hmm. Okay, thank you so much. So I think we are closing now. So Alex, thank you again for joining us today and sharing more about Aleo and things like Shield. So this was a really great conversation, and thank you to
This is
everyone
builder
listening to the Builder
activation.
Activation podcast. So see you in the next
Buildathon.
episode. Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Build
Alex,
the
thank
next
you.
on-chain killer
Bye bye.
Builder activation.